down on our sworn staff, and that affects the entire police department. Whether it's our school resource officers, our patrol officers, our detectives. So we are building back this police department. 2020 was a real challenge for us. We were relatively fully staffed in there at that time. We were in the 720. We're authorized for 755. Today I have 588. And but I'm encouraged in the sense that we just tracked our application. So of this time last year, for 6 months, from January to the end of June, we were 74% up in our police officer application. But I'm going to take this opportunity to speak to this crowd like I do at every crowd, and I'm going to say it, for those viewing at home, the Richmond Police Department's hiring heroes. And if you want to make a difference in people's lives, this is a career and this is a police department where you can do it. You can look at those men and women back there that have risked their lives for decades, that love this city, that want to keep our citizens safe. And I would just encourage everyone who wants to serve to check us out.
Just clarify that when you're down 2%, how many officers, what's the number that you need?
I would like to be fully staffed at 755, but I'm telling you, I don't know that we need to get to that number. We need more, certainly, but by leveraging technology, our officers are more effective and more efficient than they've ever been. So we're utilizing those cameras, license plate recognition. We're building a real-time crime center in Richmond that hopefully will be operational by the end of the year, so that the officers we do have in the field will be supported by a staff of technicians and civilians in that room, directing them to go after the bad guys. So I think that by leveraging technology, we may never need to get back to 755.
Understaffed but optimistic, and I love that you said that you're hiring heroes. All right.
We need people from all walks of life. That's what's so great about the Richmond Police Department, is that there's no one way to be a great Richmond police officer. We have all types of people from all different kind of backgrounds, but they can all serve and they can all help make our city better.
I just want to know we're hiring heroes as well.
Living proof right here.
And we have
Tag along.
And we have nothing but heroes. So Greg McQuaid is always looking for heroes. So that's great. So John, you got another question?
Tanika Daniel from the Churchill area. She has a statement and a quick question.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanika Daniel, as you stated. I work for a local nonprofit, Greater Richmond Scan, and I have a few statements. The first one is I was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. I'm 37 years old. I'm a mom to 4 RPS students. My key points are policy and politics. We talk about the community and how we need to be involved, but we're up against the powers that be, the people who are in control of the laws and different things of that nature. And we want things for the community, but at the same time, the people who are tasked with having the most interactions with our children and families are the most underpaid in the city. The teachers are underpaid. The mental health workers are underpaid. And another thing, until I started working for Greater Richmond Scan, I did not know it was another side of trauma. So imagine all of the other people in our communities who do not have access to this information. Another thing, the two most prevalent things in our children's lives are home and school. Home and school. We're not collaborating because everybody's stuck in survival mode. As this gentleman stated, we write off the people who can actually help our children. I got better information and better knowledge and was able to help my own babies, but that came from me realizing that as much as a good mom I am, I couldn't do it alone. For my sons, I lived in public housing for 6 years up until 2021. The only thing I believe that saved my boys is me being able to get some positive Black men around them. They need to see our Black men in positive light, and there are plenty out there, but again, because of policy and politics, they're not able to have interactions. And the last thing I want to touch on, the system says it's created equal, but it's not. The system is set up for failure. The reason why I say this, two examples. I lived in public housing. When I started to do better for myself, my rent went up to $1,000 and $1,200. Why are you asking a single mom for $1,200 to live in public housing? And then I can't get assistance with food. So I'm stuck. I want to keep doing better, but every time I go up, there's no transitional programming for people who come from all public assistance who want to do better. It is literally people living in these communities that are stuck with making decisions, or do I choose to do better, or do I stay where I'm at because I know I'm guaranteed housing if I do this? Or either, last point, moms, dads who want to work. These people literally told me if I was just working, coming to them to get child care, they were going to put me on a waiting list that possibly took 2 years, and I would have to pay a percentage. But here's the kicker. When I decided to go and get on TANF, I got child care immediately. How is it that we expect our people to do so much better when the systems are stacked against them? Thank you.
Anybody want to?
I just want to say I agree.
And me too.
For someone who doesn't have any kids, I do think that it's hard for us also because when we fall short too, even though we don't have any kids, our life gets hard too. We go through things just like any other person who has kids. Of course, people with kids, have a harder load. But I do think, I've been in a situation where I couldn't get no help because I don't have any dependents. That's the first thing they ask me. Do you have any dependents? No. Okay, well, we can't do nothing for you. So I do think it should be something set in place for people who does not have kids also. We deserve help too. I just want to say that.
Keisha from the South Side.
Yes. How you doing? My name is Keisha Cummings. I'm the founder of Two Love LLC. People would probably consider me a gun violence advocate in Richmond. I don't consider myself. I don't like the word gun violence because it puts all the onus on the children and or young adults, females and males that are committing the gun violence or the act. And it takes a lot of acknowledgement off of us as individuals and as society. And so I have lost probably 40 young men and women to gun violence in terms of them being killed or murdered. And I've lost probably just that much in terms of them committing violent acts. And so I serve both sides. And so I'm glad that you spoke, Ms. Daniels, because at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that we are all working in a system that is not working for us as people. And I didn't really know what to talk about, but you said that you wanted a voice here. So I decided to try to be that voice that is not here and to see what I would say if I was that voice. And if I was that voice, I would say that voice, that unheard voice is, why did Miss Keisha get a phone call from Parks and Recreation after I was finally letting Martin Luther King, thank you, Mr. Cameras, in the after school program? We talk about after school programs, and Commonwealth Attorney Colette McKeachin said that it is juveniles and chief of police that are committing the crimes. These are not 10-year-olds. So I would assume that the average age would be between 14 and 18. So if I was somebody, I would want to know from Mosby Court, why did Ms. Keisha get a phone call from Parks and Rec saying that the police made the decision to close Martin Luther King Gym, a place where I could finally breathe and go and play basketball. It was open for 8 weeks. It was almost 100 kids that came into there. And as soon as school stopped, when the summertime came, it was closed. And when I asked Parks and Rec why it was closed, they told me that they had transferred it from the Fairfield Court, which has nothing to do with Mosby babies or Creighton babies or Wickham babies. And they also told me that they had it at George Wythe, which has absolutely nothing to do with Hillside babies or the babies in San Susie, or you might say Southwood. And so when I bring these statistics up, I just want stuff to be brought up to acknowledge it so that we can understand it and so that we can move forward together as a people with solutions. If I lived in public housing, I would say, why in the last 3 years has RHA spent $3.1 million on surveillance, but no recreation center is open where I live at? Why don't I have programs for my mother to go in here and fill out a job application, or for some mental health counseling for the Broken Men Foundation to come inside of Fairfield Court and Wickham Court and to treat me, or come into Hillside, or come into San Susie or Southwood, what they call it now, and treat me? That's what I would want to know. I would want to know, how could you possibly, I know the grant says public safety, but prevention is public safety. I would want to know how the Calhoun Center has been closed for 12 years, but yet the city opened it to let Kevin Durant film a movie there. But these babies didn't have a pool. So it's an Olympic-sized swimming pool in Gilpin Court in the Calhoun Center. If you guys do not know, it is not a small pool. It is a beautiful pool that can be used for competitive swimming. And I want it to be open before the city takes over it next year and starts to tear it down for other people to move in. I would want to know why I live in Hillside and I haven't had a recreation center open to me in years, where we have a program in Southside, where we have so many grassroots people that are coming out there day in that you guys never see, because you know what? They're never going to be called on stage. They are in the trenches. A lot of them are Black men that have come home and they want to get back and serve their community. But like Mr. Bowling said, they don't qualify because there's too much red tape. You have a lot of Black men and Hispanic men that want to come into RPS and have groups with these young people, but they can't because it's a lot of red tape. And again, I'm saying this so that we can change some things. If I was somebody and I had to speak up, I would want to know. The chief said that the in 2021 we had the most violent crime. The basketball courts are still not up in Wickham Court. They still do not have nets up. It is no nets on Accommodation Street. Sorry, Fairfield, I don't know. Oh, they got the gym over there in Fairfield. There are no nets. It does not cost that much to put a net up. During the pandemic, like Mr. Cameron said, 173 million additional dollars came in for funding. 60 million went to the ESL community. I don't know to the Hispanic population or the Latinx population whether or not y'all saw it hit the community. I just know I never saw it hit the community in the hood. So I know what it say on paper, but I don't know. I know I never saw it. And I know 20 of it was supposed to be allocated for what that sister said, which is social emotional learning. We have to take the O out. Everybody is focused on the SOL. We have to focus on humanity first. Because when we focus on humanity and what is going on with these kids and what is going on with people out here, that is what's going to stop the gun violence. Okay? Because you can have a gun all day long. I can have a gun there all day long. I'm not going to pick it up. It is something that's going on inside a person to make them want to play God and take someone else's life. That's what we have to face. And we all, including ourselves, have to take an acknowledgement on the part that we play. Because we can't continue to look like, let's say it is election time coming up. It's 140 seats coming up. This is an election that never happened. And next year, the mayoral election is going to come up. And city council election is going to come up. And school board election is going to come up. So we have to stop relying on them to clearly. It's not working for us. It's not working for the people. When I say individually, I'm just talking about the system because they are also part of it as well. They may not be worked on. As far as the police, it has to go both ways. It has to go both ways. The community aspect has to go both ways. I'm trying to bridge different things. I was in Hillside the other day checking on my students, and I saw somebody come, and the lady just stared. So I walk over, I said, "How you doing? Everything all right?" She giving me the same look that she give kids. So I'm like, dang, how would she look at them if I wasn't here? I'm like, well, you're staring. She's like, yeah. I'm like, you just want to sit here and stare? She's like, yeah. But who are you to do that? That's what Mr. Bowling is saying. Would you do that to Mr. Cameron? You wouldn't. So we got to acknowledge that. And so, okay. I'm sorry. What is the vulnerable? 60 vulnerable communities. I just wanted to, I'm sorry, you guys. It's a lot that I had to say. I wanted to be that voice. That voice is not heard. Of course, that voice is not going to come to the police station. So we just have to acknowledge that we have to do stuff in an unorthodox way, a different way. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for coming here and lending your voice and trying to come up with a solution. And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're gonna pause just a minute to get to Reba, because I know Reba, you've got a bunch of questions over there.
Yeah, I have two questions. Well, one question from two people, Joyce Foster and Jenny Trovinger. I hope I said that correctly. She's a semi-retired teacher. They are both inspired by watching this town hall today, and they want to get involved. And how do you do that? Where did they begin? And they want to come up with action plans. So we talked about the problems here tonight. What's the solution, and how do individuals get involved?
Great question. Superintendent, is that something you can address? I mean, do outside people, what can they do to help the schools? Or as Cruz Sherman has said,